Most people think managing money is a knowledge problem. If they just understood more about investing. If they had a better budget spreadsheet. If they knew the right strategies. Then things would be different. But here is what decades of behavioral research have shown us. Managing money is mostly not a knowledge problem. It is a behavior problem. The gap between what people know they should do with money and what they actually do is enormous. And that gap is not filled by more information. It is filled by discipline. By the slow, unglamorous practice of making better decisions consistently, even when better decisions are harder. This video is not about how to invest or which accounts to open. It is about something deeper. The relationship you have with money. And why that relationship is the real driver of your financial life. Start with a simple question. How do you feel when you think about money? For many people, the honest answer is uncomfortable. Anxious. Avoidant. Maybe a little ashamed. Money carries emotional weight that most of us were never taught to examine. We watched how our parents talked about money, or how they avoided talking about it. We absorbed messages from our environment, that money is scarce, that rich people are greedy, that wanting more is selfish, or that spending freely is how you enjoy life. These messages became beliefs. And beliefs drive behavior. Think about the common phrases you may have grown up hearing. Money does not grow on trees. We cannot afford that. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are different from us. These phrases, repeated often enough in childhood, become part of how you relate to money as an adult. They create patterns that are hard to see from inside them. Someone who grew up hearing that money is always scarce may feel anxious holding on to it. Spending it quickly feels safer because it cannot be taken away. Or they may hoard it, afraid that any spending will lead to catastrophe. Someone who grew up seeing money as a source of conflict may avoid managing it entirely, because engaging with it feels emotionally loaded. None of these responses are irrational. They were learned. They made sense in their original context. But they can quietly run a financial life in ways the person never consciously chose. Long before we ever opened a bank account, we developed what psychologists call a money mindset. A set of largely unconscious attitudes and emotions that shape every financial decision we make. And for most people, that mindset was never examined. Never questioned. Never updated. It just runs in the background, guiding choices that feel rational in the moment but often are not. Housel is a financial writer who published a book called The Psychology of Money in 2020. His central argument is this. Success with money depends far less on what you know than on how you behave. He argues that financial skill, knowing how compound interest works, understanding markets, reading balance sheets, matters much less than the behavioral habits that determine whether you save consistently, spend within your means, and stay patient when things get hard. And patience, he argues, is everything. He uses Warren Buffett as an example. Buffett is widely considered the greatest investor of the modern era. But Housel makes a point that is easy to overlook. Buffett started investing seriously as a teenager. He is in his 90s now. The majority of his wealth was not built because he found exceptional investments. It was built because he stayed in the game for more than 70 years without stopping. Compounding does not reward the smartest. It rewards the most consistent. It rewards the person who shows up, makes reasonable decisions, and keeps going long after the excitement of starting has faded. Time in the game matters more than skill at the game. That is a discipline insight, not a finance insight. Now let us talk about the behavior that undoes most people's financial progress. Spending. Spending is not inherently a problem. Money is meant to be used. The question is whether your spending is conscious or automatic. Most spending is automatic. It happens without deliberation. Without checking whether it aligns with your values or your actual goals. You are stressed, so you buy something. You are bored, so you scroll and click. You feel behind socially, so you spend to keep up. You get paid, and the money disappears before you have decided anything about it. This is what psychologists call emotional spending. Using purchases to regulate how you feel. Not because the thing you bought was truly needed or even wanted. But because buying something provided a moment of relief, stimulation, or identity. There is a term for one version of this that many people recognize. Retail therapy. The idea that shopping can make you feel better. And in the short term, it does. A new purchase triggers a small dopamine release. You feel a brief lift. But the lift fades. And the money is gone. And if the underlying emotion, stress, boredom, loneliness, was never actually addressed, it returns. Often stronger. So you buy again. And again. Not because of the thing. Because of the feeling the buying provides. Over months and years, this pattern quietly drains financial progress without the person ever feeling like they made a big mistake. Because each individual purchase was small. Understandable. Justifiable. It is the accumulation of small, emotionally driven decisions that quietly shapes a financial life. And the industries that sell to us understand this deeply. They are not selling products. They are selling feelings. Security. Status. Belonging. Relief. Joy. The discipline of money starts with learning to pause between the impulse and the action. To ask not just, can I afford this? But, do I actually want this? Does this align with what I care about? Or am I buying a feeling? That pause is small. But it is where financial discipline lives. There is a concept in behavioral finance called present bias. Our brains naturally give much more weight to what is happening right now than to what will happen in the future. The pleasure of spending today feels real and immediate. The benefit of saving for 10 years from now feels abstract and distant. This is not a character flaw. It is how the human brain evolved. For most of human history, focusing on immediate needs, food, shelter, safety, was what kept people alive. The future was uncertain, and planning too far ahead had little practical value. But the modern financial world operates on very different timescales. The decisions you make about money today ripple out across decades. And a brain built for immediate survival is not naturally well suited for that kind of thinking. So we consistently undervalue the future self who will need that money. We spend on today and leave the future to take care of itself. The problem is that the future arrives. And it arrives as you, facing the consequences of thousands of small daily decisions made without much thought. One of the most powerful shifts in financial discipline is learning to make your future self vivid and real. To treat saving not as a sacrifice but as a gift to someone who is genuinely depending on you. Someone who will thank you or blame you based entirely on what you do today. That reframe does not change the math. But it changes the motivation. Here is a practical truth about money discipline that most people miss. Willpower is not the answer. If financial success depended on white-knuckling every spending decision, most people would fail every time. Because willpower is limited and exhausting. The answer is systems. Automatic structures that make the right behavior happen without needing a daily decision. The most powerful of these is paying yourself first. Before you pay bills, before you spend on anything, you move a fixed amount into savings or investment. Automatically. On payday. This inverts the usual pattern. Most people spend first and save whatever is left. Which is often nothing. When you save first, you are making the decision once, how much to save, and then automating it. You never have to resist spending that money because it is already gone before you see it. This is not a new idea. But the research on it is clear. People who automate their savings consistently save more than those who rely on willpower and intention. Systems beat intentions every time. There is also the question of enough. And this is perhaps the most psychologically complex part of money. Morgan Housel dedicates significant attention to this concept. Enough is not a number. It is a decision. It is the decision to define what a good financial life looks like for you, and to stop chasing beyond that, regardless of what others around you are doing. The comparison trap is one of the most reliable paths to financial dissatisfaction. There is always someone with more. A bigger home, a newer car, a more impressive lifestyle visible on social media. Trying to keep up with that is a game with no finish line. Because the comparison never ends. Housel tells the stories of people who had enormous financial success but destroyed it by risking everything in pursuit of more. People who had enough, but could not recognize it. The discipline of knowing when enough is quieter than building wealth. But it is just as important. Real wealth, Housel argues, is not visible. It is not the car you drive or the clothes you wear. It is the options you have. The flexibility. The security. The ability to say no to things that do not serve you. The ability to say yes to the things that matter. That kind of wealth is built slowly. Through consistent, undramatic financial behavior over long periods of time. Not through knowing the hottest investment. Not through one perfect financial decision. Through hundreds of small, boring, consistent choices. Made day after day. Year after year. Here is what the discipline of money actually looks like in practice. It looks like checking your spending once a week, not to punish yourself, but to stay conscious. To see where the money actually went, rather than wonder where it disappeared to. It looks like automating savings so the decision is made once and honored every month. It looks like pausing before purchases that are not planned. Not forever. Just for a day. Or a night. To let the impulse settle and see if the desire is still there. It looks like defining, quietly and honestly, what you actually need money for. What kind of life you are building. And using that definition to make spending decisions feel meaningful rather than conflicted. It looks like patience. Boring, unsexy patience. Saving a little every month for years. Watching small amounts grow slowly into something real. The discipline of money is not about being frugal to the point of joylessness. It is about being intentional. Spending fully on what you truly value. Releasing what you do not. Saving consistently for the future. And staying in the game long enough for time to do its work. Not glamorous. But deeply effective. And more achievable than most people think. Not because money is simple. But because the most important financial decisions are not technical. They are behavioral. And behavior, unlike markets, is something you can actually control. I hope this video brought you something meaningful. If you find it helpful, please like and share it with someone who may need it. Subscribe if you would like to hear more stories like this. Wishing you a calm and peaceful day.